Okay everybody, so moving on again with rivers, and we're making great progress. What we're going to have a look at is river landforms of the mature stage or the middle course. Okay? Now, as opposed to what we've looked at already in the upper course or the youthful stage, we have a few changes that happen in the mature stage that lead to different landforms. So the first thing is that the river is carrying a greater volume or amount of water, and because of that it is more powerful. However, the gradient is not as steep as it was in the youthful stage, so there is less of a slope, but the river will continue to erode. The river will erode vertically, so it's still eroding downwards, but now it is also eroding laterally, so it is eroding sideways. And the valley that the river is flowing through is a little wider and it has a slightly flatter base. Now, what I want you to think about is, have you ever seen features of the mature stage or the middle course? I'm going to bet you have. So you'll be familiar with this. It's the EastEnders theme tune, and it will be on in many houses in the evening. And part of it shows the mature stage of a river in London. And as part of that, you get to see these lovely meanders. Okay, so those bends in the river are known as meanders, and they are part of the mature stage or the middle course of the river. So meanders and oxbow lakes, such as those on the middle course of the River Moy, that's your example, are your features that we're going to be looking at, and we are going to be focusing on meanders. But with everything else that we've been doing, we're going to have a little look at our images or our photos of these features, diagrams of these features, and how they appear in map extracts. So this here is your meander. So you can see it is this series of sweeping curves or loops in the river. And with our meander, you have the inside of a meander, which is very different to the outside of your meander. Down here again, we will have the inside of your meander here and the outside of your meander here. So it changes with each loop, so you need to look at each loop individually. And we have the inside of your meander and the outside of your meander. It's a beautiful meander from Serbia. A series of meanders probably from the Amazon that are taking place in each of these. Just different rivers, different places, but what you get are the same or very similar features. And what we have here that is slightly different is, along with our meanders, we have an oxbow lake here, and we have another oxbow lake here in the foreground. So our inside bank of the meander sees deposition because the water travels more slowly here. The outside bank of the meander sees erosion because the river flows more quickly here. And we see meanders turning into oxbow lakes and how they might appear in a diagram. And would you be able to identify those? And this is how they appear in map extracts. We have some lovely meanders. This will be much more like the map that you guys will get, hopefully. So we have a meander here. Could you give a 6-figure grid reference for your meander here, or here, or here, or here? Any of those meanders. Can you grid reference them if you needed to? And we have our oxbow lakes, except in this case, it's called a horseshoe lake. It's another name given to meanders, or given to oxbow lakes in different parts of the world, because it is the shape of a horseshoe, but we call it an oxbow lake. And we have another one that is being formed here, another oxbow lake. And you will all know that I'm a fan of Owen Hughes' videos, so we're going to watch his video on the formation of meanders.
Meanders form in the mature and old stage of a river. The river has lost some of its erosive power and more deposition now occurs. A meander is a bend in a river which forms due to the combined processes of erosion and deposition. Water flows fastest around the outside of the riverbed, leading to lateral erosion of this riverbank. The flow of water is at its slowest on the inside bend, leading to deposition in this area. This will alternate with each new meander. Over time, the combined lateral erosion and deposition of alluvium will lead to the development of wide meanders. In turn, this leads to the development of a wide river floodplain. Erosion of the outside bend of a meander leads to the development of a steep bank known as a river cliff. Deposition on the inside bend leads to the development of a gently sloping slip-off slope. Examples of meanders can be seen in the River Shannon in its old stage and the River Moy in County Mayo. The Amazon River in South America also contains many meanders in its floodplain.
Okay, so now if you get your copies out, we're going to do our FEED. So feature, example, explanation, and diagram. So our feature, meanders are curves or bends in the river at its mature stage. Meanders are formed by the processes of erosion and deposition. So those are our meanders. E for example. Examples of meanders are found in the middle course of the River Moy. And now our explanation. So we have, just to help us with explaining, a diagram here. So as the river reaches its mature stage, it flows more slowly as the gradient is not as steep. The river erodes laterally, so laterally meaning sideways, where there is a bend in the river. Hydraulic action, the force of moving water, erodes the bank on the outside. This is where the river is flowing fastest. So this is where our erosion is happening, on the outside of the bend. And here we have the outside bend of a river with erosion having happened. We have hydraulic action has undercut the bank and left a river cliff. So if somebody was to stand here where it is undercut, it could collapse into the river quite easily. While you have erosion on the outside bend, you have material being deposited on the inside bend of the river, of the meander. This is because the river flows more slowly on the inside bend, and it doesn't have the energy to transport large material in its load. A slip-off slope, which is what we have here, forms from this eroded material. Over time, the meander becomes more extreme and forms the shape of a loop. A diagram will follow in a separate video, so I'll do a video on how to draw your diagram of a meander, because I know a lot of people struggle with the diagram part. But this is your cross-section of a meander. This is as if you had a cake and you slice down through it. This is your slice through the meander. So we have our erosion on the outside because of faster moving water. We have undercutting having happened because of hydraulic action and abrasion. And a river cliff and undercut bank have formed. We then have deposition on the inside bank because of slower moving water and material, part of the load, being deposited here to form a slip-off slope. And finally, just so you guys will be with the processes involved in the formation of oxbow lakes, we're going to watch this video again by Owen Hughes.
An oxbow lake is a feature of river which forms in the old stage of a river. They form on well-developed floodplains where there are very wide meanders with a narrow neck between each bend. Erosion occurs on the outside end of two meanders. This leads to a narrowing of the meander neck. If a flood occurs, the river may cut through the meander neck to form a new straight river channel. The river will now have two routes. Water will continue to flow around the old meander and also follow the new straight river channel. An island of land is created in the middle. The fastest flow and the majority of water will follow the straight river channel. Over time, less water will follow the old meander and the speed of water flow will be much slower. This leads to deposition at the old neck of the meander, which cuts it off from the main river channel. An oxbow lake is now formed in the shape of a horseshoe. Eventually, the oxbow lake may turn into a marsh, or may dry up completely to form a meander scar. An example of an oxbow lake can be seen in the River Moy in County Mayo. Oxbow lakes can also be seen in the Amazon River in South America and on the floodplain of the Mississippi River in the United States.